Hi guys, welcome back to another art video. In this one I'm going to be creating 3 textured abstract canvas artworks. I'm going to be doing so with some new texture medium / paste that I've just bought. I bought 3 of them because I wanted to create this video testing the different ones out. I just want to kind of see what the differences are between them. I was standing in the shop, I want some textured paste, but I don't know which one to choose, so I bought all 3 and thought it would make a good video. The pieces that I plan to create are based on these kind of artworks that I've been doing in some recent videos. I really love the colours, I really love the texture of the brush strokes and stuff like that, but I want to add another dimension to it with textured mediums. So yeah, I'm going to basically try and recreate this on canvas using the textured mediums. So I'm going to create a background layer which uses these kind of orangey yellowy colours with some white to make it kind of a bit more peachy coloured. Then I'm going to add some texture on top of it, which I'm kind of thinking I might add like a pencil mark of like a through line so that they all kind of look like they're part of a series, so I can add texture in the right places so they look all uniform, but we'll see how that goes. And then on top of that I will paint the kind of bluey turquoisey colours. I've bought some new turquoisey colours which I thought were stunning when I saw them in the shop. So yeah, I've got a couple of new colours, so the actual blue might turn out a bit different to what I've used before, but we'll have a little play around with that. So in front of me I've got 3 canvases which I bought from the range. They are mixed media canvas, 9 by 12 inches, 270 GSM. This was a 5-pack, medium grain, and they're triple primed, ready to use. They were $11.99 for a pack of 5, which I thought was quite good. This is the Liquitex Basics acrylic light modelling paste. It says light modelling paste, a lightweight opaque paste for 3D effects, mix with colour and build in thin layers or overpaint once dry, which is good because that's what I plan to do, as all 3 allow for that. This is the Liquitex Basics acrylic coarse texture medium, and this says coarse texture medium, a grainy effects medium, mixed with colour, use on its own or overpaint, great for special effects. Didn't realise Liquitex is an American brand because they've spelt colour wrong. This is the Pebeo Studio Acrylics Modelling Paste High Density. This says heavy textured opaque paste to create dimension and coatings. Can be used pure or mixed with studio acrylic colours. So the cost of these, the Liquitex Basics I bought from the range and they were $5.99 each, and this one I bought from Hobbycraft, the Pebeo, that was £4.80 for 100ml, and these were $5.99 for 250ml. And then while I was in the range I also picked up another one of these which was $7.99, and obviously I bought some more of these colours. These are also in the Art Studio Premium collection. These were $1.99 each, so I've got a few of them here. I've got a gold one, I've also got, this was another Data Brownie one, so that one was a little bit more expensive. $2.99 for the Data Brownie, $1.99 for the Art Studio Premium. And when I was in the Hobbycraft I also picked up another palette knife because it's a slightly different shape to what I already had, and I thought it would be more useful for applying texture in the way that I plan to. That was £4.30 from Hobbycraft, which is a little bit expensive compared to the range. I wasn't sure if I would be able to get that kind of shape in the range, so I picked it up while I was in Hobbycraft first, annoyingly, but they did have something cheaper in the range, so kicked myself there. But I bought a sponge which they didn't then have in the range. I bought the sponge from Hobbycraft and I think that was £1.50, so I'm glad that I picked that one up. Yeah, I think that's everything. So I'm gonna get painting. I'm gonna get going on this underpainting of like peachy pink and see how we go. I've been quite excited to do this. I bought these on, what day did I go shopping? Today I was in Worthing for counselling, so it was Friday the 20th, and it's now Saturday the 28th, so it's been another week. So I was quite busy that weekend, last weekend. I had a lot of work to do, so yeah, I've been looking forward to doing this for a week and I'm excited to see how it turns out. I'm excited to see which of the mediums is the easiest to work with, which comes out with the best texture, and I think by doing 3 very similar pieces it's going to be hopefully quite easy to see what the differences are in each of the textures and how they all turn out. But yeah, let's have a play. Okay, these are very bright. I didn't put enough white in, but I'm also conscious that I end up using so much white. So what I'm gonna do is let them dry and then cover them with a couple of layers of white before putting the textures on them. I love this color though. This is actually very similar to the color that I used for this. This is the, I used this orangey color for the underpainting of this, and it made it such a really nice warm piece. So yeah, even with blues and purples and stuff on top, I think it still feels warm. So I think that'll make the turquoisey blues and stuff still feel quite warm in the abstract pieces that I'm going to do on here. That's my prediction anyway, we'll see. Right, I've sort of covered them all. I realised this one was a lot darker than the rest, so I put a lot more white on this one, and then this one ended up being whiter than the rest, and now this one is whiter than the rest because I tried to balance it out. I don't think it matters too much because I am going to be completely covering these with texture and blue, and then on top of the area that is left in this kind of colour I'll put more white on top, and then I'll even it out a bit more then. Yeah, for now I'm just gonna leave that like that. I'm gonna go and have my lunch. Okay, so these are now completely dry. I have drawn a line goes across all three of these, and I'm going to do the blue section across the bottom and the white section across the top. So this one's got a lot more white, this one's got more of a like curve to it, and this one goes kind of more up to a smaller area. So they're all going to be similar but different compositions. I think what I'm going to do is texture on the bottom section of each of them, and then add texture in the white area with brush strokes as I have done with this. And I think because I want to cover this colour mostly, there's going to be quite a lot of brush strokes, so it will show up. And I'm going to try using the sponge as well at some point. So yeah, let's test out each of these. So I'm going to start with, let's start in the middle. So I'm going to start with light modelling paste from the Liquitex Basics range. And I guess we just squirt a bit on and see. So it's quite smooth but quite thick as well. I say the consistency is like maybe toothpaste. It's quite easy to manipulate. I can add a kind of a wave texture into it and just spread in bits randomly down the bottom to add some sort of random textures down here as well. I haven't had to use very much, and I've sort of, yeah, kind of done as much as I want to cover. I think I might build up a bit more up here. I'm not sure whether to do a smooth line. No, I think I'll spread it out a bit actually. How thick do I want to make this? So this is like a really fine grain. I don't know if it's grain, but it's really fine kind of smooth texture. So I'm just like dabbing it to create some extra dimension in some areas, which I don't like up there, but kind of works on these bits. Right, I think I'm gonna leave that there and try one of these others. Okay, let's try the other Liquitex. So this is the coarse texture medium. Do the same again. Oh yeah, that comes out very different. We'll see. A lot coarser of a texture. Oh, it's got more of a silvery aesthetic to it. It feels like sand. Yeah, it's definitely got a sandy kind of texture to it. As you can probably hear, it's still easy, like quite easy to apply and manipulate to go how I want it to. It spreads out a bit different, so it's leaving more tiny individual grains of sand. Than this kind of stayed together a little bit more. So it makes me wonder how well it will stick to the canvas. Yeah, it doesn't spread out into smaller sections as easy. It kind of just goes into individual grains of sand. So I've got larger kind of patches of it that stick together, and then lots of tiny little dots around it, if that makes sense. I'm really intrigued to see how these look once they've dried and once I've applied colour on top. In this one I've kind of done a few waves, so I'm just trying to add some similar kind of wave textures. See, that piece was inspired by the sea and these are kind of the same. I think what it is once you've applied it and spread it out a bit, it's quite difficult to then go back and spread it out a little bit more and kind of flatten down the edges of it. If I was to have done that with this one, I think it would have spread a lot further than this little patch that's here. I don't know how clearly you can see from up there. So that was the coarse texture medium, the light modelling paste, and now I'm going to try the modelling paste high density. I might just move this across so I can get to it a bit easier. Okay, yeah, I have a feeling this might be somewhere between the two, just from looking at it in the tube, but well, let's see. Interesting, this looks more liquidy. Oh, interesting, yeah. It's not got the like sandy kind of grain to it that the coarse texture medium has. I think it's thicker than this one, the light modelling paste. In terms of colour, it's greyer, whereas this was more silvery. This was quite white, or creamy white. This is greyer in colour. Not that that's a bother really, because I plan to paint over all of them, but just in case you're wondering. Yeah, it behaves quite similar to this one, but different. I don't think I can articulate how. I like using these. I like the effects that they're giving, providing, creating. I think based on how much I've ended up putting in the tops sections of these, I want to add more to this light modelling paste one. I think for the purpose of this piece, or these pieces, it works really well. I don't know how well it would work if we wanted to build up much thicker layers, but I guess that comes from like letting it dry and adding more on top of it. Actually no, now I'm doing this one next to that, like straight after that modelling paste. They are very similar. I'm not sure what the drying times are on these actually. Might have to Google it in a minute. Okay, I wonder what it would be like using them together on the same piece. Mixing and matching. These two are getting quite a similar depth to them in the areas where I've made it quite thick. They are very similar. I think I need to add some more to this one. Because I'm quite impatient, I'm probably gonna add some heat to them. Okay, I think I'm done with those. It's hard to know whether to let them dry and then add some more layers and build them up so they're really super textured pieces, or to leave it like this so it's quite a subtle texture in the background. I'm scared that if I do too much and keep going because I'm having fun using these new mediums, that I'll overdo it. The reason I'm doing this piece is because, or doing a piece inspired by this piece, is because I love how this turned out, and every time I tried something similar, I loved how it turned out. So with so many of my pieces recently, I've tried something and not loved how it turned out, and because I want to focus on the differences between these materials. I wanted to stick to something I knew I liked at the end of it. But now I'm adding in this extra variable of, do I go super textured, super thick, high, heavy texture, or do I keep it subtle? I don't know. Let's Google how long it takes to dry and go from there. Okay, it's quite a lot later now. It is 6:30 and that's why the lighting has probably changed quite considerably. It's now dark outside. You can probably hear the rain. I had to leave this quite a while to dry, but it is now, they are all now fully dry. And where they've dried, some areas gone a little bit more translucent, so you can see where it's like a thinner application. This one, you can see there's quite a lot of thickness here. They're all just quite different, I think. But I have decided I am going to add more to them, leave them overnight, and then after a morning out tomorrow, I'm going to come back and spend the afternoon painting them, hopefully. So yeah, I just think where it's dried, I can see more where it's a lot flatter than I want it to be. I expect if I was to cover it, it would show up a bit, but I want to experiment by really building up those layers and really testing out these new mediums, so I'm going to do that now. Okay, hopefully these are all on screen. So I've added a little bit more to each of them. Where I spread it out and was going a bit thinner towards this end, I've added more height, more texture in. I'm really liking how this one is turning out. That's the modeling paste high density. And this one, I'm not so sure about this sandy one, coarse texture medium, but we'll see when it's dried. This one feels a little bit more like when I did those pieces that were using filler. I did some pieces using some filler, and I think it's probably more likely to crack and more likely to, if I don't leave it to dry for long enough, to pick up in the, like the grains, to pick up in the paintbrush and kind of end up smoothing things out. Whereas I feel like these will dry pretty rock solid, but we'll see. It did feel pretty solid before, but obviously once you then start to like brush at it with something, it might start to come up, but I don't know. I will reserve judgment fully until all three pieces are complete, but I think because this is giving such a different texture, these are going to turn out, or at least that one is going to turn out quite different from the others, so it will be interesting to see how they all look at the end. But yeah, I'm going to leave these overnight, and then tomorrow afternoon hopefully they will be dry enough to paint. Okay, it's actually a couple of weeks later because I haven't had the time to do this when it's been daylight. Now we're in winter, there's a lot less daylight going on. Even today, it's now 10:39 on a Saturday, and I'm putting the light on in my living room just in case, because it's just dark and dingy and rainy and horrible. But this, I am now sure, is dry, having had a few weeks of drying time. So I'm now going to use all of these lovely colours, probably all of them, mix them up, possibly some green in there as well, and just add layers of colour now. My plan is for the textured areas to be the bluey turquoise colour, this area to be white, maybe with a hint of blue, and then I'm going to use my new sponge a little bit and possibly like put some white on top of the textured area to pick up the texture on top. But yeah, I'm just gonna have a play and see how it goes. The challenge is going to be squeezing out enough paint to cover all three with the same colours, like mixing enough of the colours to cover all three and not having too much left over. But I'm gonna do a massive amount to start with, and then obviously I'm gonna be mixing it with white to kind of make it get gradually lighter to go towards this end. So yeah, let's have a play. How lovely are these colours? This is dark aquamarine, this is turquoise blue, and this is the blue hue that I can never say the name of. Oh, they're lovely. And then I'm going to add some of this ultramarine, mix them all together and see what happens. I love it. I love the colours. I love how there's like the turquoisey bits coming through, but then I've added something that's a little bit more blue without the green on top. I'm gonna let this dry and I'm going to go over the top section with the sponge and white paint only. I kind of kept using the same brush that I was using for the turquoisey section so that there was a little bit of blue sort of smudged throughout this top section as well. You can still see quite a lot of the reddy orangeness behind, so I'm going to cover quite a bit of that up. Kind of realising it was a bit pointless adding that on, but we'll see how much of the white I end up adding over the top. So yeah, I'm gonna make this a lot more opaque white and then kind of drag the white down a little bit. I might end up then going backwards and forwards, like just trying to get the gradient right. But I'm really happy with it so far. I'm really happy with the colours. I love how it's looking. I love how the texture's looking. This one I'm really liking. This is the coarse texture, so that was the one that felt a lot more sandy, and I think it's giving a really nice texture there, but I really like the others as well. So yeah, all a little bit different, but I'm liking how they're all showing up. So I'm gonna let that dry and then go in with some more, have a little clear up of my paint palette and then use my sponge for the first time. Okay, so I've dried these off now, and I thought for this white section I could add a little bit of silver in there just for a little bit of something metallic. And I've also got some pearly white which I've used in a previous piece, and it came out with quite a nice pearlescent vibe to it. So I've mixed together white, silver and pearly white just to give it something a little bit different. So yeah, I'm gonna have a go with this sponge. I'm not sure if you're supposed to wet it first or... Yeah, I've never painted with a sponge before, so this could be interesting. It's going to add a bit of texture to this top section, a little bit different to the texture that's already existing, but yeah, it's going to add a nice little texture. It's covering quite well. I like the little silvery sheen to it. It's not super obvious, but it's definitely there. You can definitely see it. Right, I'm gonna keep working this in. I'll speed it up and come back to you when it's finished. I'm so pleased with this. I've got up to come around to the other side of the table and just kind of look at it. Ooh, and just look at it from a different angle from above. I think the sponge is a really great tool for getting good coverage, but also for adding this like lighter layer of this white colour over the top. The sandy, I need to swap these round now, don't I? So that is that one, that is that one, that's the middle one. So the coarse texture medium by Liquitex, which is this one now, it is really working, like it's really picking up this lighter silvery white colour. So I'm really pleased with how that's looking. Why does it always like absolutely pee down with rain when I want to stop and talk? This one hasn't got as much texture in it, so there's less for it to pick up. So I think with these two slightly smoother texture paste, I would need to add a few more layers if I wanted to create this slightly more raised effect, but I still really like how they're both looking, and I love as a three how they look. I love the colours. I think this white kind of colour is actually looking a little bit, oh man, the rain, it's looking a little bit lackluster, so I'm just going to dry it off and then apply another layer just to that top bit. I think I'm kind of happy with this bottom bit now. I just need to do another layer on the top, and I've run out of the paint that I'd mixed, so I'm going to mix up some more. Maybe slightly more white and pearly white and slightly less silver, because it's giving quite a dark colour, I think, to the top section, so a little bit less silver in that. But yeah, let's get it dried and apply another layer. Okay, I think we are done. The colours aren't quite coming out in the camera how they are in real life, but that is a lot more turquoisey than it looks. I'm gonna let these dry completely, so I'm gonna stop, have some lunch, let these dry, see how they're looking, just double check that the areas that are white are how I want them to look. But that is them pre-drying. I think they look quite good. Oh, I'm really annoyed the colour isn't coming out in the camera. It's like I think in the camera it looks very blue, like royally blue, whereas in reality it's turquoise. How can I show? Yeah, it's still not coming out the right colour, but oh well. I'm really pleased with how they look. They don't look warm at all, so considering I did that underlayer of orange, probably needn't have bothered, but because they're looking so like cool toned, very white at the top, I've covered it completely. Okay, so I did, once it was dry, add another little bit of white over the top of that area, on all three of them obviously, and I am really happy with it. They're all completely dry now. I was going to varnish them to finish off this video, but it takes, I think you're supposed to leave it a minimum of 24 hours for them to dry before you can varnish them. I was going to use this matte varnish, so I'll do that another day. But yeah, excuse the shadows that are being cast across this. That was not the intention, but the sun has come out despite the fact it's still peeing it down with rain. I love these. I'm so happy with these. I love the colours. I love the different textures, and it was so interesting trying the different textures at the same time. So this coarse texture medium ended up being very sandy, and I didn't love the application with it because it was so sandy. I felt like it wasn't sticking to the canvas as much as I would want it to. However, I got used to it, and it's actually become, although it wasn't my favourite to apply, it's become my favourite in terms of the outcome. So here's a little close-up of that one. It's got such a lovely texture to it. It's a lot more obvious texture, a lot rougher than the other mediums. The one thing I am gutted about, not about the texture, but just about the fact that colour is not showing up in the video, but yeah, you can see if I hold it at different angles there where the texture is, and then I've used the sponge to add white on top of where the texture is, and it's worked pretty well. So that's that one. I really like that one. Then we have the light modelling paste, which was a lot smoother, and I think probably if I was to use this again, well, I will use this again, but I would build up a lot more layers if I want to create something that's a little bit more textured, like the coarse texture. This one I really enjoyed applying. I loved the feeling of putting it onto the canvas. I still have managed to achieve some really nice raised areas. The texture is still quite obvious. It's probably as obvious as the more sandy one, where I've managed to get some height in that texture, is where I've sort of used the palette knife and like dabbed it on to create these little areas, and that picks up the white quite nicely. So that's natural sunlight over there, you can see it, and I have got the light on above me as well. So yeah, that's that one. The modelling paste high density from Pebeo is very similar to the light modelling paste from Liquitex, quite smooth in comparison to the coarse texture medium, and again creates a really nice texture. Maybe a slightly different, or maybe it could be used for slightly different effects than the coarse texture medium. But yeah, that's that one. And together as a three, I think they look really nice together. I don't think I think this one probably looks slightly different to those two, so that might stand out a little bit if you were to put them on the wall together. But yeah, I really like them. I may have gone too heavy on the white. It may be too plain, that white area. I'm not sure. Maybe I should have some more blue in it, but this is as far as I'm going with it for now. I'm not going to be touching it. As I said, I intended to varnish it today, but that's not going to be possible. So there we go. If you're thinking of having a go with some textures, then I would recommend all three of them. I really enjoyed using them. This one gives a more sandy texture, these two are thinner. I think in terms of value for money, this one might be a little bit better than this one because of the size of the bottle, but yeah, you have to apply a few layers if you want something really raised up. If you're looking for a subtle texture, then they both work really well. Yeah, give any of them a go. If you can get to the range and get these for like $5.99, then why not? Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed watching me experiment with these three textures and creating this little triptych of sea inspired pieces. Yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.